should the Minnesota Vikings fear Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers for the next 10 years? Because the Green Bay Packers just made Jordan Love the highest paid quarterback in NFL history after he signed a 4-year deal worth $220 million. I am here to tell you that they should not. This take is presented by Hoagland Farm. Contact Hoagland Farm at 952-491-1541 and get the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. This beef is sold in quarters and halves, and they have custom sample packs so you can try before you buy. Get sirloin steaks, T-bone steaks, chuck roast, beef, and more. And Green Bay Packers fans, this deal's even for you if you want it, because this is great beef, and great beef doesn't discriminate, even against Green Bay Packers fans. Mention the Minnesota Tim podcast and get 20% off your first order, and call Hoagland Farm today, 952-491-1541. Okay, so great. Jordan Love signed this massive contract, had a stellar 2023 NFL season. And this was his first season starting for the Green Bay Packers because of the Aaron Rodgers thing and Jordan Love. He didn't want to play, and it took him forever to get in the game. My question is this first. If the Green Bay Packers knew Jordan Love would perform to this level, would they have moved off of Aaron Rodgers sooner than they did? 3 years is a long time to wait to start in the NFL. And with the Aaron Rodgers drama, the difficulty he was as a person, the challenge he was to the coaching staff everywhere he goes, you would think that the Green Bay Packers would have moved off of him sooner if they knew Jordan Love was going to explode in the second half of the 2023 NFL season. But just looking at his numbers, he had 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. First 2 games, he had 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against the Chicago Bears and Atlanta Falcons. Great start to the NFL season. Team was 1-1, though. They beat the Saints, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Beat the Detroit Lions, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Lost to the Denver Broncos, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Lost to the Minnesota Vikings, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The Green Bay Packers were 2-6 at one point, and really the turnaround last season was remarkable. Then they lost to our Minnesota Vikings.
Up high, down hard.
1 touchdown, 1 interception. So these numbers aren't telling you much. And then in the second half of the season, Jordan Love went crazy. It starts with the game against the Los Angeles Chargers where they won 23-20. He had 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, threw for 322 yards. He played unbelievably well against the Detroit Lions. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 268 yards. Super efficient. Their biggest win of the season happened against the Kansas City Chiefs, where they beat them 27-19. He had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 267 yards throwing. And then they lost to the Giants. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Then they beat the Carolina Panthers, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Chicago Bears. And in those games, he had a combined 7 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. My question is this. Besides the Kansas City Chiefs, who did the Green Bay Packers beat last year? Especially when Jordan Love was ripping it in the second half of the season. They beat the Bears. They weren't a playoff team. They beat the Minnesota Vikings. Who did they start? Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall? They beat the Carolina Panthers. They were a dumpster fire last year. They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're a playoff team. They lost to the New York Giants, who were a dumpster fire last year. They beat the Chiefs. Great win. They beat the Lions. Okay, my bad. That's 2 really good wins. They beat the Chargers. They were a dumpster fire last season too. But you look at some of these losses on their schedule. They lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. They lost to the Denver Broncos. They lost to the New York Giants. I don't believe that Jordan Love is worth all this money that the Green Bay Packers just paid him. I think he's a good football player. But do I think he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Good? No, I don't think so. He went through a stretch last year, and they creamed the Dallas Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs. He had 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, and they dominated them 48-32. And they lost to the San Francisco 49ers, a game that they should have won. Jordan Love threw across his body, middle of the field. What was he thinking? I have no idea. But I just don't fear Jordan Love. He's had 1 season starting for the Green Bay Packers, and when this contract kicks in, that's when it's going to get interesting. Because last year was a perfect scenario for Jordan Love. He had a great team around him. Aaron Jones, wide receivers are good. Defense was good. Offensive lineman was good. And they got hot in the second half of the season versus some dumpster fire teams besides the Chiefs and Lions. When this contract kicks in and the Green Bay Packers can't afford to pay the surrounding pieces, which happens to every good quarterback. This isn't, a shot at Jordan Love. This happens to every team that has to pay their quarterback. And it's going to happen to the Minnesota Vikings eventually when they have to pay J.J. McCarthy if he lives up to being paid that much, which is my biggest fear. I don't think that J.J. McCarthy can overcompensate, just like I don't think Jordan Love can overcompensate for the lack of pieces around him because their contract's going to be so big. So this is a Jordan Love thing just as it is a J.J. McCarthy thing in the future. I just think that Jordan Love played 1 really good season, had some really bad losses. And you would think that he would get better because he technically really, this was his rookie season. But after a really, really good season with some eye-soaring losses, do you pay a guy the highest paid amount in the league? I don't think that this is a situation where Jordan Love is going to dominate the NFL for the next 15 years, and he's going to be an Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre force in the NFC North for the next 12 years. I just don't see him as a player that's going to live up to the hype of Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I don't think he's a guy that can carry a roster. I believe that he's the guy that needs to be massaged. He needs the guy that needs to be coached. He needs to be a guy that needs to be balanced. Like, you're not just going to hand him the keys of the car and let him go. You got to really coach him and make him an efficient and effective quarterback. So my point of this podcast is I don't think the Minnesota Vikings should fear Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers because he had 1 really good season, and now he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I believe that what we saw from Jordan Love, his only season starting, is going to be the story for his career, where he has games where it's like, what in the world? You just played like the best quarterback in the league. And then you look at other games, it's like, you lost to the Giants and the Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. How did he lose to these teams? What in the heck? I think that's going to be the story of Jordan Love. Thank you for watching this episode. Remember to contact Oakland Farm at 952-491-1541.